Hello and welcome to the Jungle, a Cincinnati Bengals podcast brought to you by the folks over at Blue Wire. My name is Owen Caroline, again joined by Caroline Palmer. We got a nice little thing going here. We're on, I don't know, I'd say episode 6 or 7, going back and
Yeah,
forth. This has been
let's
pretty
go.
awesome. And draft. The NFL draft this past weekend. We talked on Friday about the Bengals' first round selection and Shamar Stewart, but then they had rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to go the rest of the way. So I think we're going to kind of take
Oh,
today
yeah.
to go through what our thoughts were on a people from what I'm seeing kind of a mixed bag reaction of a Bengals draft.
I was just about to say it depends on who you ask if the Bengals had a good draft or not. I definitely think they picked all the positions that I know we've addressed on the podcast of like positions of need. Did they arguably do it in the correct order? That's up to debate depending on who
Yeah.
you ask. But I think it was solid. I mean, I think it was more of like a project draft. I would probably say there was a lot more project picks than maybe some more NFL ready guys, but we'll talk a lot about who they signed on draft days and also some of the guys they picked up after the draft was over.
Yeah, I knew you were pretty excited about a couple guys there. So I think we'll start today because we already spent a whole episode essentially to Shamar Stewart. Kind of skip over him and kind of dive right into the round 2 selection, which from what everything I've been reading is one of the more shocking picks the Bengals made. That's Demetrius Knight Jr., the linebacker out of South Carolina. I think we all knew that they were going to take a linebacker at some point. I don't know about round 2, especially when pro-ready guys like Tate Ratledge were on the board at that same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just an interesting selection. I was reading about what a lot of people thought about the pick. I know he had ties to the Bengals
Mm-hmm.
before the draft, and one of the interesting things that I read is that they said they waited for 17 picks because they knew they were going to draft him. Like this was not something that kind of fell to them. They kind of had him planned out in that round to go to them. And one of the things that they really liked about him was interesting to me. I mean, I've talked about the fact that I think personality is a huge prospect, and we talked about that at length in regards to Shador Sanders. Knight became an instant captain at South Carolina as a
Mm-hmm.
freshman, and that was something that really stood out to Al Golden when he spoke to him during the combine, and it was something that they looked to, and especially when you talk about the Bengals and you have a leader in Hendrickson who is potentially either not going to play or just not going to be the same type of guy when he comes back, and you have some youth that can come in at a position of need that I talked about as a round 3 spot for them. I think it's definitely an attribute that you want in a guy. Was he worth a second round pick? I don't really know. I mean, I do agree with the fact that multiple people have come out and said it was a much stronger defensive draft this year, just all in
Yeah.
all, than an offensive draft. So if you were, it is the lowest ranked draft pick that the Bengals made throughout all 6 rounds. And it's understandable, but at the same time, if you like where this guy's head is at in terms of his professionalism, where he is as a person, and he obviously came from some great programs, put up some pretty good numbers. You got to understand why the Bengals took him there.
Yeah, and I kind of immediately fell in. I agree. He's kind of a rookie pick, 25 years old in July. Some articles I was reading said it kind of felt forced, and that it's not a bad. This was kind of the common theme that I saw in everything I read was that the picks the Bengals made weren't necessarily bad players, but the way they went about the process of the draft seemed confusing, and I actually agree with that. And because I'm watching this guy's tape, he's all over the field. He's a freak athlete, it looks like. He is huge. He can run like a horse, and he's kind of going to be paired. I think could probably be a day one starter
Mhm.
on this Bengals team, especially because he's so much older than the average rookie. So I like the players that the Bengals probably took from in every single one of their picks. But the thing I kept consistently seeing was the way they went about it was that they could have got this guy in round 3. They could have got someone else in round 4. It seemed like they picked everyone a round ahead from what I was reading. And that especially the biggest complaint was that there were some more pro-ready guards available too at the time. But once I was watching this pick and they started showing some of his tape, he kind of jumps off. Like he's noticeable. And that's what you want, especially in a linebacker in the NFL. and he is just all over the dang field. So I mean, like, I don't know. I agree with the fact that it's maybe a little bit of a reach, but I disagree. I think he's going to be great, and I think the Bengals really potentially drafted starters of their first 3 picks, and from a pure talent perspective, and I think the way that some articles are framing it, that the process was incorrect, is kind of diminishing the fact that the Bengals, in my opinion, had a really great talent-based draft.
Yeah, I think again, I think they have one of, if not the highest potential ceilings
Yeah.
for their draft class across all 32 teams. I'm not just talking about whatever. I think if you look at potential of draft classes, you've got to put the Bengals in the top 2, if not top 3 of highest ceiling for their draft picks. But the problem is with that, you
Mhm.
have this potential for really high, but the double edge of that sword is how long is it going to take these guys
Exactly.
to adjust? We talked about it last week with Shamar Stewart. I'd argue with Knight and honestly round 3 Fairchild, how long is it going to take them to
Exactly.
adjust to the NFL?
Mhm.
How long is it going to take them to be ready and deal with some of these guys that you have to deal with? We talked last week about how great Baltimore's defense is. Like, you're going to have to deal with that twice a season. You're going to have to deal with Myles Garrett 2 times a year. Like, is Fairchild going to be ready for that? On the other side of the ball, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, whoever the Steelers decide to play at quarterback. Like, you have talent on the other side of the ball as well. It's just they picked projects, and I believe that this draft class will either be one of the biggest successes of this
Yeah,
Bengals management, or it's going to blow up in their face in about 3 years' time.
and that would be a real shame because
Yeah.
we talked ad nauseum about how this needed to be home run after home run, and I think they hit home runs with the talent-wise, but it's
Yes.
just like from a pure football standpoint, this works, but like we said, we can't, like, wait on this guy to be incredible, and that's kinda why I really liked this Demetrius Knight pick, because he is 25. I mean, you kind of already get him at his peak athletic abilities, so you don't necessarily have to wait. Like,
Mhm.
maybe it takes a couple weeks for him to kind of adjust to get NFL game speed. But like, again, I mean, I've talked about how much I love the SEC. The Bengals went SEC first 2 picks. I mean, that's about as
Mhm.
pro ready of a conference as you can get. Actually,
Yeah,
first 2 picks. So it's
I was
like,
just about to say a lot of their picks were SEC guys.
I'm not going to sit here and say that the SEC is comparable to AFC North football, because it's not.
Mhm.
But if it is from a pure, how can we have guys that we know already that came from good programs be a part of us and make a pseudo instant impact right away? I think they picked from the right bunch.
I think so too. I mean, unfortunately, this is going to be a waiting game. I now
Yeah.
think I talked about how my GM pyramid would go in terms of how they function for the next couple of months. We're now entering that next stage of this
Hmm.
preseason. I think this preseason becomes extremely important for a lot of these young guys, and honestly, a lot of some of these new guys that they signed too. The Bengals had one of their bigger free agencies in the past couple of seasons, this past off season with who they've brought in. And I think it's going to be extremely important is how fast can we get these guys to mesh at OTAs in summer and preseason games. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of these guys, starters and first 2, honestly 3-round picks, playing in more preseasons than other teams because I think they need to make sure that this team gels. I think it
Totally.
is crucial to their season because I think if they can get this to mesh the right way, they'll fly away with the AFC North or at least take
Yeah,
it to the Ravens. If not, you're looking at something last year where you need 5 things to go right in week 16 and 17 for you to even have a fighting chance to make the playoffs.
totally agree. I think it's a good shift to my to the next round pick, round 3.
Mhm.
This is my favorite pick of the draft. Dylan Fairchild, and really what sold me right away was 2 words: Georgia guard. I mean, it's like
Yep.
they just churn guys out. That's the Georgia and Alabama, as we see with your Eagles, they rely heavily on them,
Yeah.
but they're just NFL factories. It's the
Yes.
same way that Kentucky basketball is an NBA stepping stone factory. Why not take from these places that just churn out pros, especially getting a guy that's a high-end pass pro and is probably a day 1 starter in the 3rd round?
Yeah, I was just about to say one of the really cool things about Fairchild is a lot of people said that for a guy of his talent, he fell a little bit farther than what he needed to. He obviously wasn't a Will Campbell. He
Yeah,
wasn't like a Booker, like that was going to go in the top 20 picks, but he came from a program where he won a national championship while he was there.
yeah,
Like you can't really argue with that. There's some ridiculous stats somewhere about the average size of an average UGA lineman over the past couple of years, and it's like 320 pounds. And these aren't just 320, 330-pound guys that don't move, they can move.
hmm
And I think it's important. We did say that guard is a drastic need, and the fact that they were able to your point, get a day one starter in round 3, it is a steal. It's not my personal favorite pick of the draft, which we will get to later, but it
all
was
right,
definitely up there with some of my favorites.
yeah. So then I guess let's keep going. Let's shift around for Barrett Carter, linebacker, Clemson. He kind of like Demetrius Knight seemed to have some Bengals ties early on, and the Bengals kind of waited for him and took the time, and he fell to the fourth, and the Bengals kind of thought they had to take him. They loved him. He was mocked really high on their big boards.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like I manifested this, honestly. I talked about from months ago, the Bengals needed aggressive playmakers, and that's
Hmm.
what they were missing last year. That's exactly what he is. That is exactly what Stewart is. I feel like I've been manifesting this for months, and it's what they need. It gives that linebacker room, it gives that defensive meeting a completely different look, a completely different youthful, energized, aggressive energy that they absolutely were missing. I'd argue for the past 2 years.
Yeah,
They've been missing it on that side of the ball, and I was very excited about this pick. Obviously, Clemson's a little bit underrated in the last couple of years, but Dabo knows exactly what he's doing over there. They've
yeah.
got some professionals in the league that have done great. Obviously, the ACC is not as great as it once was, but it's still the ACC. You still got a guy from a good conference, good school that, again, I think for where he was drafted is going to be worth the selection.
I agree. I really liked this pick too. I mean, like, here's the thing. I mean, you see these guys. I was watching NFL draft coverage, and it's just like, was there any guys that got drafted that the analysts were like, "This guy sucks"? Like, they're all just like, "This is a good pick for this team. And this guy, he's a great pro. He's a great college guy, and we'll see if it translates." It's all
Mhm.
just rinse and repeat stuff, and I feel like we're kind of doing that too. But like I said earlier, I just really liked these Bengals picks from a talent standpoint. And it's also, in my opinion, I think it's a waste of energy to be like ho hum and in the doldrums about a draft unless it was like totally out of left field. And I just kind of feel like the Bengals didn't really make any picks that weren't like it's like they didn't take two quarterbacks like our friends up in Cleveland. So it's
Cleveland.
like those are the Bengals, in my opinion, didn't have any picks that from a positional standpoint that were head scratchers. Maybe by the type of guy they got was a head
Mhm.
scratcher, but they didn't take a position they didn't need, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I agree. I'm gonna kind of segue
Yeah.
into what my personal favorite
All
pick
right.
of the draft was, which is round 5, Jalen Rivers from Miami, Florida.
All right. Let's hear why.
Um,
I liked him too, but I want to hear your
I think, and it was actually really funny because I remember hearing about it and I was like, wow, like I just think that like based on like obviously I did extensive research on a lot of places. My brain just absorbs football knowledge. And I just really liked him. I thought he was this aggressive guy, versatile on the offensive line, which I think is a huge deal.
yeah.
He played reps at both guard and tackle on both sides in his career at Miami, which I think is really important and was good at all of them. Another thing that I really like about him is a lot of the draft conversation was, especially at the offensive line position. You talked about Will Campbell and his short arms. It was all you heard about
Yeah.
when they talked about offensive linemen. But if you look at the flip side of that, when you see these offensive linemen with wingspans, like large wingspans, and I think they said Rivers had the second largest wingspan of all of the offensive linemen in the draft. The key is, can they use it correctly? Can they use it to their advantage? Can they use it as a weapon to help protect their quarterback? And when you look at this guy, the answer is yes. He knows exactly what to do. His pass protection is phenomenal from what I've seen, what I've watched. I watched ACC football a lot of last fall. He knows what he's doing. I think it was a great value pick, and I thought about it, and I've seen multiple people call it the best like for value pick of the entire draft. Like they got him way for under what he's worth, and they got him in a great place. I think he has the potential to be a day one starter.
Yeah.
I don't care that he was a round 5 pick, but it's like we said earlier, the Bengals talent wise nailed this. And I would not be surprised if come week 1 you see him either rotating or starting on that offensive line because he can play anywhere. And that is what the Bengals desperately need to protect Joe Burrow.
Yeah. 6'6", 319 pounds, and he's an athlete. Can't get much more physically gifted than that. I had a nice quote that I read in a Sports Illustrated article. It says pretty much what you just said. There's no reason why he can't compete for a starting job role as a rookie.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
There's none. He was phenomenal. Like,
Yeah.
it's just he properly knows how to utilize himself at both guard and offensive tackle. And when you get to the professional level and even the college level, that is the difference between you and the next guy. Everybody there is talented. You're in the NFL. They all have the physical ability to get there, but how do you use what you do to separate you from the guy next to you? And that's where I think Rivers will become dangerous for other teams, not for the Bengals.
All right. So we talked all offseason about Bengals needing a physical back. Round 6. They hit that with nail on the head. Taj Brooks, running back from Texas Tech. Comfortable in pass pro. Add some depth. Bengals now have 4 running backs in this
Oh.
RB room. Is someone going to get cut? I mean, are they going to hold on to all these guys? I mean, probably seems like Brooks is probably the odd man out because he was the 6th-round draft pick. But, hey, pass pro, physical line running back. We said that's what they needed, and they went out and did it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is another great pick from them. I mean, he's Texas Tech's all-time rushing leader.
Sure.
I mean, can't really go wrong with somebody like that.
Yeah.
Again, he adds that physical back presence that you need with guys like Zach Moss and stuff like that. Like, I think it's just an amazing addition for them. We talked about it. Obviously, we had the wishful thinking of the Cam Scatterbo pick, but
Yeah.
I think Brooks is still an amazing place. I mean, again, he's in a prime position to fight for a spot.
Yeah.
Like, there is no one saying that he can't beat one of these 3 guys. Obviously, the Bengals are a little bit more of a pass-heavy offense, but can't pass all the time. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see him used in more of like Kyle Juszczyk role. I don't know. I just
Got it.
when I saw that, I was like, I feel like that would be a nice scheme for them to use him in and
Interesting.
offset. That was what I thought about. I just think he has the athletic ability to play something like that. And you really only see a true fullback scheme with the 49ers with Juszczyk.
Mhm.
But I think it would be an interesting way to introduce him to this offense. So it's not like you need him on the ball every single play, but he's out there when you need him in a very unique type of role and almost use him as another blocker if you do want to go pass heavy.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, you've really kind of stolen all my analysis for these last 2. So, I mean, I'll let you keep talking. You really liked some of these undrafted free agents the Bengals got, and
Yes,
they got
I
the
think it
best guy
is.
available.
Yes, the Bengals got the best available after the draft, which was Ohio State offensive tackle Seth McLaughlin. I was surprised to not see him go in round 6 or 7 personally.
Well, he was
I mean,
injured, right?
he's coming off an Achilles, which
Okay.
is a major injury, but again, with the way that the Bengals look at potential, this is an absolute slam dunk from the Bengals. He is not only a very healthy, like, player in the way he is, obviously he's coming off the Achilles, and that's really the only injuries he's had. His best qualities is his football IQ. He's a very intelligent guy. People that I went in and looked at it when I found who they were drafting, very speak highly about the way he thinks and he processes the game. Like, obviously, that's important when it comes to that. He's extremely motivated, has been extremely motivated in his recovery, and is a Remington Trophy winner, which is an award for offensive linemen.
Cool.
So it's a guy that fell off the board that the Bengals picked up quite easily, which I'm not the biggest OSU follower, but
Yeah.
I think Ohio State fans would agree it's a nice pick for them.
Yeah, a lot of guys loved him. I was happy they got that too. I think it seems like Bengals had a couple guys that they've signed in the undrafted shift, guys that maybe will fight for some backup roles, but I like it too. Something I was thinking about is some winners and losers on the current Bengals roster for this draft. And the biggest winners, in my opinion, is the cornerback and safety rooms. Bengals did not take a single cornerback, single safety, which basically tells me that they trust Geno Stone, Tyson Anderson, Jordan Battle, Cam Taylor-Britt, Dax Hill. I guess his recovery is gone as planned. They're going to run with these guys one more time, and they're going to see how they work with this new look defense. And I don't know how necessarily I feel. I personally like Jordan Battle a lot. I really liked what Dax Hill was doing. Geno Stone played great at the end of the year. I guess it just gives me more confidence that the
Yeah.
Bengals didn't feel like they needed to do anything crazy. But at the same time, we did see this position group get kind of burnt last year.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think they are the biggest winners, but I do also think they have the most pressure on them
Yeah,
because
that's at the same time.
they were one of the worst secondary units statistically. Like, we're not just saying this because you can look at the stats if you don't believe us. They were one of the most statistically worst secondary units last year, and we're in the bottom 10 the year before.
Yeah,
So this is kind of like a proven moment for me. Like, with the whole defensive overhaul that they did in the draft, I was shocked to not see them go
same.
secondary or cornerback at least once in this draft. Even in some of their like free agents that they signed, there's one safety in their undrafted free agents. Even when they signed those guys,
So
there
they
was
are
not a lot of
fully
safeties that
committing.
they picked. So
Yeah,
if I'm them, I'm like doing a celebratory dance or something. But at the same time, come the season, there's going to be pressure because if they don't get it right for 3 years in a row, they're going to have to look for some people. Like, you can't go 3 years in a row with the kind of performances they've had so far.
yeah. You kind of see the same thing with the defensive tackle room too.
Hmm.
Didn't take anyone. I mean, it's BJ Hill. They
Pretty
signed
much.
him to a nice free agency deal. A lot of Bengals fans love him, but again, it's just like, and McKinley Jackson or
Yep.
Johnson. I can always butcher his last name, but it's like, I guess they like what they have in house, and I don't know. It makes me still feel just uneasy because we saw how bad this defense was last year. And yeah, they overhauled some parts of it in the draft. And you can say that they were weak at defensive end and they were weak in the linebacker room. But at the same time, they were pretty weak in the run game with this
Yeah.
defensive tackles too. So it's just like, I don't know. We talk about how you can't just keep having these lost seasons with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and your core all here.
Hmm.
And it's nice that you really don't have to worry about that kind of falling apart anymore.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I'm a little surprised they went double offensive line and double linebacker, personally, more linebacker specifically, because I kind
Yeah.
of thought, I don't know. I just kind of thought it just wasn't, just kind of some of my
Yeah.
surprise picks.
Can I tell you why I think you're surprised about it? Who I think my big winner is from the draft?
Let's hear it.
Al Gordon,
Yeah.
defensive coordinator. I think he might be the biggest winner
Yeah.
of this entire draft because he led that draft room. It went the way he
You can
wanted.
tell.
He speaks highly on every single player that they drafted. And you can tell that he got a little bit more of a say this year, which I think was needed. I think for the longest time, at least since Zach Taylor has been here, it's kind of been Zach Taylor's team, Zach Taylor's decision. And I think you can truly tell that this year in the draft, and even with some of the free agency pickings, it was kind of more of an Al Gordon decision than it was a Zach Taylor decision,
Interesting.
which I think is very vital because I like the way he operates, the way he speaks, the way he wants his defense to go. Again, I think it's a big prove it year for Al Gordon in terms of, all right, you've got the weapons you want. You have the talent that you can create to be these forces of wreaking of havoc for you. Prove it you can do it.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think the bigger the winner you are, the more pressure in it, like, you're now putting on yourself. Which, again, I think this will be a big year for Al Gordon if he has any desire of being a head coach anywhere. If he can get it right with this Bengals defense after this draft, I wouldn't be surprised to see his name floating around in that conversation. But I'd argue he was the biggest winner because I think he had the most control.
They're giving him the reins. You're right. They're not. I think that was some of the criticism on Luna Rumos that he just didn't really seem like he had a lot of guys that fit his system. I mean, these are all
Mhm.
system fits. We keep
Yes.
talking about how these guys are freak athletes. The whole thing about the Golden defense is that it is athlete based and you need
Mhm.
to make plays. So it's interesting. I think another sneaky winner is Trey Hendrickson.
Yep.
The Bengals are expecting him to play. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't really know how that ends up happening. I think that's the next biggest hurdle the Bengals have to jump in this offseason. And who knows if it happens, really. I mean, we're kind of getting into this. We had a really slow part with free agency, and then nothing happened, and then it was the combine, and now the draft, and now we kind of have nothing really until teams report. I mean, they got guys for
Yeah.
optional team activities there right now. It seems like a lot of Bengals guys are there too, which I love. I
It's
don't know.
great. It means they're bought into
Yeah,
whatever they're
it
doing.
just
They're bought in.
yeah, I don't know. It's just like seeing T. Higgins there was nice. Seeing Chase
He
Brown
hasn't been
there,
there for a while.
exactly. I mean, Jamar Chase, you can do whatever you want. I really don't care. But it's like Joe Burrow is there. It's like stuff
Yeah.
like that where it's like these guys like let's go to work.
This
It's
is so off topic, but did you see the interview when Shamar Stewart got
yes.
to the stadium and Joe Burrow's like, "Oh, I'm Joe." Like, "No,
Yeah.
duh, you're Joe Burrow. Everyone on America knows who you are."
Yeah.
I laughed at that. I
I
thought
did
that
too.
was funny. I
I
was
did
like,
too.
he like introduced himself like no one in the room knew who he was. It's like you have a
I
very distinct look, Joe Burrow. We all
yeah,
know who you
we know
are.
who you are. And the other thing I took away from that is that Shamar Stewart is a monster.
Oh my
And
God,
that
he's
yeah.
huge.
He is
Like he
huge.
looked big in like that green
Yeah.
suit on draft night, but like when he was in there with Joe Burrow and some of the other Bengals players, I was like, "Oh my
And
gosh."
Joe Burrow's not a small dude.
No, no,
Yeah.
he's not a small
Yeah.
dude. Let's preface that.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I just feel like it's like and now we've kind of totally shifted away from the draft, just kind of wanted to do
Yeah,
anyway do at the end, but it's just
yeah,
like these guys are there. I don't
yeah,
know. I just feels like and maybe they've been there the whole time over these last couple
yeah,
years. But it's just like it seems like the Bengals kind of turned a whole leaf in how the players and ownership interacts and how it vibes just feel good
yes.
from an outside perspective.
Yeah, I will
So
cycle back to finish our last conversation
yeah,
because we talked about winners and losers, and we really only talked about winners.
yeah,
I
let's go
will
loser.
throw one loser out there, and that's Jermaine Pratt.
I was
I
gonna
will
say him.
throw that out there.
Yeah,
I
he's
think he
gone.
is by and away the biggest
Yeah,
loser. I think he's either getting traded or he's getting cut.
he's
He's
probably
not
gonna
staying
get
with
cut.
the Bengals. The fact they went double linebacker pretty much put that nail in.
I'm
So,
surprised they didn't trade him draft day or during the draft. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the
yeah,
same reason why they didn't trade Trey Hendrickson is that just
fair
they
enough.
just don't do that. But Jermaine Pratt's gone.
Oh,
So
he's gone.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, other than that, I think again, I could say based on the talent that they have in both locker rooms, I think the Bengals are in a great place.
I agree.
But it's like the classic question of all time. You have the tools, you have the
Mhm.
skill. Can
Execute.
you apply it?
Yeah.
Can you execute? Can you apply it? And that's what they're going to have to spend the next couple of months figuring out, answering. How can we utilize and maximize this talent? How can we get the best out of these guys? That is the next question.
Awesome. So a couple other quick hitters before we wrap up for the day. Other Bengals news. Hamilton County approved the agreement for the Bengals stadium improvements. So that was
Yep,
quick. We're
that
already
was
kind
good.
of moving that along after
Moving along.
yeah, that's I mean, I had people reach out to me and I was like, this was never serious that the Bengals
No.
and that was I mean, whatever. So that's good. They're gonna
Yeah,
figure that out. There's gonna be some more a couple more things they need to confirm, I believe, but headed in the right direction. This was the biggest
yeah,
thing they needed to get done was the county kind of being on the same page. And then I mean, this might be our biggest thing that pushes the next couple episodes through is NFL schedule release May 14th. So
yep,
it's
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 coming.
coming. It's done. And
Yeah,
I don't know. Bengals have a fun schedule. I wrote down their home opponents: Patriots, Jets, Jags. Good to see Travis Hunter at
yeah,
home. Bears, Lions. That's cool. Ben
yep,
Johnson, and then seeing Super Bowl contender Cardinals, and then your classic Steelers, Ravens, Browns, and then they have some fun road opponents too. Some
yeah.
people making some away treks. Buffalo going to Miami
Ugh.
this year. Back out to Denver. Joe Burrow's first game at Lambeau,
Oh, that'll be
Minnesota.
fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Steelers, Ravens, Browns. So I mean,
Yeah,
I was thinking if not next week, maybe the week after, we can maybe put together a mock schedule, try to guess the
yeah,
primetime games and stuff, and
yeah.
maybe see how many close we can get right. I don't know. I mean, that'd be if like one
I
of
would
us
see
can
him
get
get
like
a couple. I gotta say one of their, especially if they come out of the gates swinging. I'd say one of their Ravens games is prime time. I'd say that
yeah.
right now.
I
What
read
day is it?
somewhere.
April 29th.
Yeah.
I will say one of their Ravens matchups is prime time.
Well, I mean, I guess I'll just go down the line real quick. I think they're gonna have six, and because
Oh,
I read that earlier that the Bengals were in a position to get 5 or 6. I think
mhm.
it'll be some combination of 2 division games and then like that Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bills
Yeah,
conglomerate. So
because
it's
they
like,
love their good Joe Burrow, Josh Allen
yeah,
face off. They love it. They enjoy it so much.
yeah.
So
And it'll be fun. I'm excited. Now it's like now we're in like real fun NFL territory.
yeah, it's super interesting.
All right.
Trying to
So
think. One other tip, George Kittle signed a 4-year extension this morning.
did he really?
That's yes. They because he didn't show up to OTAs for San Francisco. So, but they did sign him. I think it was 4 years, 86 mil. That might
Good
not
for
be the
him.
correct number,
You
but
know,
he
all
deserves it.
he does too. But for all the people that say the Bengals are paying too much money to a small position group and that the Eagles are doing the same thing, and you really can't say that about the Eagles anymore because they won the Super Bowl. San Francisco is going to be in cap destruction in like 2
Yeah.
years. If they
I
don't
would
get this
say
figured out,
even next year.
yeah,
Because they got this Purdy contract coming in next year, and it's gonna like I saw something the other day where it was like San Francisco crushed their Super Bowl window before they could even get
yeah,
the team together, which is gonna like they're gonna waste McCaffrey prime. They're gonna potentially waste Purdy prime. They wasted Ayuk prime. They wasted Debo prime. They wasted a lot of these defensive guys who have either retired or left the team. Like that's what, as a Bengals fan, you do not want the Bengals to become. And I think
yeah,
that was the biggest fear when they did this T. Higgins, Jamar Chase contract extension is they were like we do not want this to become a San Francisco situation. You can relax. We're not there yet. But again, I think it's ties back to I think the theme of this podcast is draft was good. The potential is there. We just now have to execute.
yeah. Let's see how it goes. So let's have some fun these next couple weeks. I think we had some really good draft analysis here. Overall, Bengals grade, I'd say in the high C's, low B's. I think that's
I was
fair.
gonna say my grade was either a B minus or a C plus.
That's
I
perfect.
say B minus just because I think the potential is there, but I just need to see it in person before I can move it any higher than that.
Totally agree. So we will, as always, keep updated with Bengals news and early episode for you this week, but we'll be back at you with regular scheduled stuff next week. For Caroline Palmer, my name is Owen Timmerding. Thank you for tuning into this week's rendition of Welcome to the Jungle.